Oh no! They're doing the thing! It's happening now! No, I didn't read the documents, but Mr. J. Crumperdinkle, he said I need to go. I need to prepare. I've got to grab all my most valued possessions. I've got to go. I gotta go. We gotta get ready. Come on, Alex. Let's get out of here. Come on. So yeah, there's a new thing. There's actually been a lot of new things in the 2A community this week, and I want to talk about just one of them today. No, not that one. Stop asking me about that one. I have not worked there for months, and I cannot answer any questions about what is or is not being tweeted, twatted, or twote. Anyway, right now we're all ablaze about the concept of ATF doing some kind of amnesty with regard to braced pistols. The reporting is the usual slipshod state of the firearms community, where we start with a nugget of truth and then roll it around on our outrage farm until it's both unrecognizable and foul-smelling. So let's try to get to the bottom of this. Let's cover what was in that document, what it might have meant, and also whether or not they can actually do this. So let's get stuck in. To get you caught up, recall that over the last year, ATF has been trying to redefine when a firearm is a pistol as opposed to a short-barreled rifle or shotgun, largely spurred by the popularity of firearms equipped with stabilizing braces. Most of you are aware that handguns have been considered by the Honorable Supreme Bork of this fine nation to be those firearms that are closest to the core of Second Amendment protection, meaning that restrictions on handguns and pistols are those most constitutionally suspect and thus most likely to be overturned. Fewer of you are likely aware that the National Firearms Act was originally intended to restrict handguns the same way it does machine guns. Now, during the early debates on the NFA, a grand politic lizard of the time raised the question, "Pray tell, right honorable gentlemen, what would stop a man from merely cutting a rifle down into effectively a pistol?" The response was to patch this little loophole by regulating smaller firearms made from rifles and shotguns. Of course, this was to prevent people from getting around the handgun restrictions by making, a crappier, less concealable handgun from a rifle or shotgun. Of course, because we live in a hellscape clown world, the handgun restrictions were removed from the NFA, but not the restrictions on shortened rifles and shotguns. Again, these restrictions that were put there to prevent people from getting around the handgun restriction. And of course, despite the court repeatedly recognizing the importance of handguns, the fact that the federal government is aggressively chasing down what it thinks are NFA violations on firearms that were at that time considered almost as good as handguns. So on to the document at the core of today's festivities. Now, this document is a budget justification statement where a government agency explains to the Office of Management and Budget how much stolen money it should be allowed to set on fire that year and reasons why it will set that money on fire and other things. These are routine filings and government agencies fill them with all kinds of trash. This is fitting given the nature of our representative government. Now, this particular filing is a supporting statement to another filing regarding information collection on Form 1 registrations. Of course, Form 1s are when you, as an individual, apply to the government, individual or on behalf of an entity, apply to make a new NFA firearm and get a registration stamp for it, a tax stamp. ATF is explaining in the majority of this document how the Form 1, the application to make and register an NFA firearm, works and how they ignite a given tonnage of money, processing them every year. Now, one cute little info nugget on this document reads, "Due to the upcoming amnesty registration of pistol brace weapons, photos of the weapon being registered will be required to prove the weapon does utilize a pistol brace in its configuration and would qualify for an amnesty registration." Now, from this molehill, a great mountain was birthed. And of course, again, this is an information collection justification, so they're justifying why they would be collecting the pictures. Not to mention the fact that they already collect pictures in many instances, but anyway. Is this confirmation that ATF is going to consider any and all firearms with a brace an NFA firearm? Is this evidence of some sort of mass registration attempt? Is this proof that President John Biden, Mr. Jonathan Biden, will finally make anime real? Well, let's go through these. All right, so first, let's cover number one. A big thing people are glazing over here is that we have no idea what ATF's final brace rule is going to look like. The early draft was pretty horrible, yes, but even in that horrible draft, it was not a ban on braced pistols. Is it possible the final rule may be more restrictive? Yes, although that would seem like a very non-pro-gamer move by the government, given the hostility the courts are exhibiting to this type of shenan. Also, if it were substantially different, it would require another notice and comment period, effectively a re-roll, and would extend this process quite dramatically. If they did that, all of this would seem just a tick premature. Bear in mind also that it never was a brace ban. To ATF's credit, which is not something I say very often, it has repeatedly acknowledged that it has no jurisdiction over pistol braces on their own. Also, it was an intensely vague point system, this previous draft that we saw of the brace rule, that would require a buttload of unique determinations on individual firearm configurations. Do we know where the meets and bounds are here? Do we know for sure if there will be an amnesty? Do we know how it will attempt to treat the brace pistols? No, we do not. What is it then? Well, it's clearly evidence of an intent on at least some part of the executive to have an amnesty of some sort with respect to firearms registered after the rule is finalized. Okay. So again, is this going to be a cost paid amnesty? Is this going to be a simple prosecution amnesty? I don't know, and neither does anyone else who claims to. Number two, is this evidence of mass registration? Not really. We have heard rumblings before about a desire to expand NFA treatment to all semi-automatics or whatever. But we also hear insane ramblings from politic lizards about banning video games and whatever every year. Again, not saying that this is good. It is at very best more annoying evidence of the naked contempt with which the administrative state regards the rights of human beings. Now, of course, point number three, will Biden make anime real? I have undertaken an exhaustive survey of administrative law and the powers of the executives dating back to the weeks before the founding of our great nation. It is with a broken heart that I must tell you I can find no legitimate source of presidential authority to make anime real. Next topic, let's talk about whether or not they actually can do an amnesty on SBR registration and waive fees. This is a more interesting question than I originally thought it would be. Insofar as an amnesty for, not bringing new prosecutions on anyone having a pistol brace firearm, yes, actually, they can do that. It is in the discretion of this law enforcement branch to refuse to give force to a law. In fact, they could effectively, and again, there's textual issues here, they could effectively refuse to enforce the entirety of the act if they wanted to. However, insofar as the actual tax goes, 26 USC 5821 covers the making tax, which shall be levied, collected, and paid upon the making of a firearm at the rate of $200 for each firearm made. It goes on to require that this tax shall be paid by the person making the firearm. Interestingly, this section burdens the government as well as the taxpayer. Now, 5822 is the individual mandate, saying that no person shall make a firearm unless he has applied for and paid any tax payable on the making, and such payment is evidenced by the proper stamp affixed to the original application form. So this is really interesting. The rate and payment is written into law. However, in the individual mandate, it is silent as to the amount, only that which is due. So you could read this in a couple of different ways. I think there might be an argument here that the government cannot do this, and I think there's certainly a cognizable argument that they might be able to. I don't know. But of course, there is a little loophole, despite that cognizable argument that the government may not be able to do this. There's a loophole here that the government often takes advantage of. That is the fact that the government can ignore certain sections of the law whenever it wants to, as long as the courts and the people are unwilling to hold them accountable. This loophole has been used many times and is very popular in government chat groups and other extremist circles. So yeah, we still aren't sure what the government is doing, but we are pretty sure it smells weird. That's it for today, guys. As always, I super appreciate y'all watching and subscribing. Please subscribe. Hit the button. Please hit the bell thing. Do it now. If you want to support me more than that, I started up a Patreon and a Subscribestar where I've got neat benefits for you, and you can also make sure I don't starve to death. This kind of support will help me make more content more regularly, which I really want to do. There's also a link to merch, including the Magic ATF ball, and affiliate links in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for all your support. Y'all take care and keep it cool.